Hey, gorgeous. Welcome to Season 2 of the Hormone P.U.Z.Z.L.E Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Kayla Smith, CEO of the Hormone P.U.Z.L.E Society, a women's health hub for fertility, hormones, and the business of coaching, creator of the Hormone P.U.Z.L.E method, an infertility warrior, two-time boy mom, and women's health expert. This podcast is for women struggling with infertility, painful periods, terrible PMS, or really just any symptom of hormone imbalance that they are ready to eliminate for good. Tune in weekly as we interview amazing experts in the fields of women's health, breaking down those hormone walls, nerding out on nutrition, and having way too much fun. Whether you're beginning your journey or you've been struggling for years, we're going to finally help you put those pieces of your hormone puzzle back together so that you can get pregnant and eliminate those pesky symptoms for good. Are you ready? This season is packed with even more expert guests sharing groundbreaking knowledge, giving you that jolt of energy that you so desperately need, sending you lots of virtual hugs, and inspiring you to take your fertility into your own hands and make that baby. Thank you so much for tuning in. Now let's get started on your road to transformation. Today's guest is Lahana Vigliano. She is the CEO of Nuvitru Wellness and a board-certified clinical nutritionist. She holds a Bachelor of Nutrition Science degree and is almost finished with her Master's of Human Nutrition plus Functional Medicine. She is passionate about women's health, especially gut health and hormones. She's obsessed with natural remedies, research, reading, weightlifting, and cooking. Outside of work, she is a mother of two and wife. Her family is her inspiration behind Nuvitru and continues to encourage her through everything she does. This show is all about nutrition and gut health and how specific foods and lifestyle pieces affect our hormones and either help or hurt our fertility health. Listen in as I have an amazing conversation with Lahana. Now let's welcome Lahana to the show. Hey Lahana, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited. So let's dive in. Tell me a little bit more about you, kind of how you started working in women's health and with hormones.
Yes. I always joke I was that 5-year-old girl who was like, I'm going to be a doctor. And so I've kind of always had a knack for health. I loved it. But then it was really when I got into the pre-med stuff, I started realizing that, what we're mostly taught is that pill for that ill. And I was a young mom, so I had my son at 18. And I think that also helped kind of pivot my thinking of one, there has to be more to health than that. Two, I'm an Enneagram 8. So control is my thing.
Yes,
so if
me too.
Yay!
I'm 8 with a 9 leg.
So you know. So if I could take control of that, oh my God, that fills me up with so much joy. So I was forced to kind of take a nutrition class. It's kind of how I was exposed to it. I still don't think I ever really saw the power of it until more towards the end of my degree. And then when I started also doing more self-taught stuff with functional medicine. But I think just wanting my kids not to be another statistic and just wanting to make sure that I was raising them correctly and us, because I do have a low key fear of chronic disease. And to me, it's really scary to think it is out of my control and I do have to rely on pharmaceuticals. So I was no, I don't believe that. And so I just really started falling in love with functional medicine and nutrition. So I'm currently almost done, literally one more semester, my master's in human nutrition, functional medicine. And then I'm starting my doctorate next year.
Wow.
So I'm awesome. A nerd through and through. And that's kind of how I got in here in this realm of healthcare and where I'm at. Yeah.
I love it. That's amazing. And I find so many of us, we dive into this field because we just are so passionate about it and we just love it. And I can see that just from talking to you that it shines through. So I love it.
Awesome.
Cool.
So let's talk about, as a nutritionist, I talk to my clients all the time about how food can affect their hormones and their fertility and all of that. So can you talk on that a little bit? How does food really affect our hormones?
Yeah. I think we have to, with everything, we kind of have to break down, right? That like very foundational piece of like what food is. And it's really just proteins break down into amino acids and carbs break down into glucose and fats break down into fatty acids. And so when we really look at this foundational piece, and I'm not your typical like macro calorie counting person, but these are the foundation of building hormones, right? So fats are needed to make our lipid derived hormones. So that's going to be things like estrogen and testosterone and even things like cortisol. So if you don't have this backbone, even cholesterol is so important. If you don't have that, then you don't have hormones. So when we really start breaking this down of like how our hormones are built and grown, it always starts from the food things that we get from food, which are proteins, fats, carbohydrates, and then obviously all those nutrients too play a role in creating the hormone, as well as not even just creating the hormone, but also taking it down the little pathway, like thyroid, like selenium is needed to convert inactive thyroid to active thyroid. So in every aspect, from growing the hormone to using the hormone, there is a nutrition part to it. And that's why it's so important.
I love it. Yes. And I completely agree. I get this question sometimes where people, especially like on social media, will say, well, diet doesn't really play a role. What are you talking about? That's not true. And I'm like, oh my gosh, from the very most basic piece, diet controls everything. Like it does. So it definitely is true.
Yes.
So talk to me about detox. You talk about how important it is to detox and to help our bodies do that. So talk to me about that. How important is that? And how do we do that on a regular basis?
It's so important. And I think it's probably one of the things, especially with infertility, that's overlooked. Because as we know, liver is that main detox organ, but that also includes gut health because that's like phase 3 detox, right? So detox is important because we run the Dutch urine hormone test. And so this will test your levels of estrogen and testosterone, right? And that's usually what's checked in blood, but they're totally missing this big part of, well, how does it detox through the body? Because depending on how a hormone's detox through the body as it goes through the liver, there's different pathways that it can choose to go down. So estrogen is my favorite example. There's 3 different pathways it can go down. It can go down a very protective pathway, which majority of it should, or it can go down a pathway that actually damages our DNA and it increases risk for breast cancers and ovarian cancers. And again, this is something that's totally missed because it's only tested via urine and traditional med is only, usually doing it through blood. So this can give women, one, an increased risk of chronic disease, but it also can like give them those estrogen dominant symptoms, but maybe they don't actually have like estrogen dominance where they don't have too much estrogen, but they are like favoring a different pathway as they detox it. So I think it can give a lot of answers into certain symptoms. And then of course this is where like gut health really comes into play as phase 3 detox, because as we are done utilizing it, we push it through and we send it out into the world via our poop. There are different gut health things that could be happening, like a bacteria imbalance or parasites or yeast or whatever. And that could increase this enzyme called beta-glucuronidase, which this enzyme can, as your estrogen's trying to like leave the body, this enzyme will unpackage it and say, no, come on out, come back into the body, let's get reabsorbed. And then now we're starting to have this hormone imbalance. So that's like kind of the connection between gut and hormones. And this is obviously dangerous because we want to make sure that our detox, we are moving and flowing and moving it out and not like reabsorbing. And this actually enzyme also does this for toxins too. So we're like reabsorbing all these things that we're trying to get rid of, and it's such a burden on the body. So when people talk about detox, we got to think, how can we get things to leave the body? And it's pooping, peeing, and sweating. And so that's why if you are not a sweater, totally raising my hand here, that is so me, which is why we bought a sauna.
I have a sauna so bad.
Oh my God. I will say best decision ever, especially if you're not a good sweater. peeing, so making sure you're hydrated, and then making sure you're pooping every day. And if you're not pooping every day, I don't care who you are, that's not normal.
Right.
I know so many people want to fight me on it of like, but my normal's every other day. I'm like, no, nope,
Not
need to poop more.
Right.
So we want to make sure we're getting all these detoxification pathways open and flowing. And then of course, making sure that we are loving on our liver, which we can do through diet and yes, some supplements, but I always start food first and making sure that our gut health is in good shape.
I love it. Yes. Detoxing is so important. I talk to my clients about this all the time. And so talk about how methylation plays a role into this, because I also run a test similar to Dutch, and I see a lot of times their methylation is off. So talk to me about that. What does that mean and how do we correct that?
So methylation is like phase 2 detox. So liver has phase 1, phase 2. And so I like to use the analogy, where did I hear this from? I remember listening to someone. I'm like, I love that analogy. I'm using it. It's a bathtub. Okay. So I'm going into your liver's like the little bathtub. And then when you're putting hormones in phase 1, it's like you're filling up the tub with water. And phase 2, methylation, is like you open up the drain to make sure the water is going out. And so if methylation is an issue, your tub will eventually overflow, right? Because there's no drain of letting the water out. So that's where methylation is really, really important to make sure that is functioning right, because liver detox needs to be very equal. And like you cannot upregulate phase 1 or methylation without upregulating the other one. So they're like best friends and they have to make sure that they're balanced each other out. So I would say half people I see with like methylation issues, I surprisingly don't see as much as I would imagine I would. And maybe that's just because of like podcasts like yours and everyone else is kind of getting familiar with like methylated forms of B vitamins and stuff like that. Maybe that's why I don't see it as much anymore. But it's a really, really important part of detox for sure.
Gotcha. For sure. So let's talk a little bit more about gut health. And we're starting to hear this term, the gut-brain axis. So what does that mean?
I love poop talk.
Yes.
My husband always knows he can't go anywhere with me. Somewhere poop will be slid in there as a conversation. But this is really important, especially for someone who is struggling with anxiety and depression, because it is such a second brain. And so that's why people probably look at us like, I'm coming in for anxiety. Why are you talking about like poop and my gut? And I'm like, it's so integrated, because one, the nerves are totally connected, which is why, for my example, when I'm going to go public speak on a big stage, I'm going to have the runs right before, because it's just that nervous.
Me too. Why does this happen every time?
Honestly, I like regret like in seconds before I go on, I'm like, why did I sign up for this? Why did I agree to this? And then once I'm on and flowing, it's fine. But that just sucks, honestly. So if you ever felt that way, you have felt that gut brain connection, which is why I guess it's chicken or egg scenario. But if someone is anxious, it could be because there's a lot of neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine, and those are made in the gut, and that can influence mood. And then of course moods as well can influence gut health, because anytime we're stressed or anxious, that also downregulates our immune system in our gut. So they really are like roads, and they just go back and forth to each other. So chicken or the egg of what happens first. But I would say gut probably happens first, in my opinion, because there are so many microbes, and it's such a crazy, weird community if you think about it inside of our guts, that some of these bacteria, when they get that opportunity to overgrow, that can cause a lot of those mood shifts and anxiety and depression. And so research is obviously still so new, even though we feel like we know a lot, it's still so new in the grand scheme of things. And there's a bacteria, and trillions of bacteria, but they're always linked to like, oh, this is linked to anxiety. This is linked to depression. This is linked to metabolic syndrome. This is linked to like everything. So it's really cool to see the research coming out about the gut brain.
I love it. I love it. So how do we make sure that our gut is optimized? Is there certain things that we should be doing? Maybe foods, maybe supplements? Like, where do we start?
Definitely food. And I know a lot of people want to like nitpick on like which foods are good, which foods are bad. And it's, as you know, it's so individualized. So like legumes are great, but for some people they're not. So it's hard to make that blanket statement of like, this is the diet or this is the food group that's bad or good. I would say across the board, trying to eat whole foods, right? So really no ingredients, doing that perimeter, that classic recommendation. So produce and high quality meats and eggs. And if you can grow it or kill it, I say that's what you go for.
Yes.
But I also think one food group, I'll nitpick at it because it is so different from what it used to be. It's not like what it was. I joke when Jesus broke bread with it is bread, is wheat, because there was a study that showed, a couple groups of people. One group was celiac, one group was allergic, one group was sensitive to gluten, and the other group had none of those. It was just like the control group, and every single group that had wheat all had intestinal permeability. So it all increased this level of zonulin. So every single person. So you can't use like, well, I don't have celiac or I don't have a sensitivity. No, even in that person, it increased intestinal permeability. And I blame that. And well, there's a theory that it could be the Roundup linked with gluten. So that kind of connection. I just think that it's not the strain that it used to be that Jesus broke bread with, or, way back in the day, because a lot of people will say, we've had this in our diet for centuries. But it's just different. We've modified it so much that it's not the same food anymore, which is why people can go to Italy and have pasta and be fine.
I was just about to say that. That's why in other countries, it's still more natural form. So it doesn't affect us the way it does here.
Yes. Good old US of A.
Yes.
So if I had to choose one thing to avoid for gut health, I would probably say avoiding wheat, which I think naturally when you avoid wheat, I think we go towards more nutrient dense options, I think. So instead of wheat pasta, like chickpea pasta, which has more protein. I don't know. I just think we naturally start getting creative and say, well, let's make like some spaghetti squash with some brown rice noodles or something like that, which I'm a huge fan of. So sayonara to wheat.
Yes, for sure. And what do you think about probiotics? Like, should we be trying to get that through our food? Like, more fermented foods, or should we be taking a probiotic, or both? Like, what do you think there?
I'm a fan of like rotating supplements. So I'll even maybe I'll take a probiotic for a couple months and then I'll take a break for like 3 months. I do think food is best. I think you have to eat a lot of it, in my opinion, to like really make changes, which is where supplements are helpful. So if you do a stool test and your bacteria is totally off, that's where supplementation is helpful. But another thing that I think in our society, because we've kind of demonized a lot of carbs, which we shouldn't, those are a lot of prebiotics, which are going to be being that little fuel for them, just like you would feed a goat on your farm or a horse on your farm. Right. That's the same thing. You're helping feed them. And so when a lot of people are lower carb, not all people, especially people who are really like maybe taking a prebiotic supplement, or they're really intentional, but I won't say that's the majority of people, to be honest.
Right.
They're just going lower carb and just eating just tons of meat and not, really nourishing that bacteria. I think that's a really great way to naturally support your gut microbiome, is making sure you're feeding them so they can survive.
Yes. So high fiber foods, lots of leafy greens, those types of things, for sure. I love it. What about any myths? Do you ever hear any myths around hormones or, just women's health in general, really?
Maybe that things are like super separate, and like what we talked about, everything's intertwined. I don't care if you're having headaches, it's intertwined with something else, which is probably where I want to nitpick conventional med, is because we have a neurologist and gastroenterologist, and like we're trying to separate the body into all these different ways when we can't. It's impossible.
Right. Yep.
So if you have hormones, you're probably going to have a practitioner that's if you have a good practitioner, that's asking about gut health, and it's asking about environmental toxins and all these things, because they do make a difference. I would say with gut health, I would say a myth too is like, oh, just jump into a food sensitivity testing, just take out the foods you're sensitive to. And like, that's it. Voila.
Right.
That will fix bloating. And that's not right? Because I think if you have a lot of food sensitivities, I think there's a bigger root cause.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really getting down to that of why are you being so sensitive to all these foods? I want to say, and that maybe birth control, that birth control balances your hormones.
Yes, that could be a whole show in itself.
Yes. Yeah. PSA, it does not. It basically shuts down natural hormone production. So I hate that so many women are misled of like, oh, you have a period problem or irregular cycle. Let's get you on birth control to regulate it. I'm like, you're really just doing a withdrawal bleed. Right. Exactly. Yeah. And the moment you stop, the moment those things are going to come back. So I would say that's the biggest myth I see with hormones.
Yep. I love it. And I love that you mentioned, everything is connected and we are a whole person. And so our practitioner needs to look at us as a whole person, look at the root cause of why we're having symptoms instead of just trying to treat the symptoms. So I think that's so important, why we need a functional medicine practitioner versus our regular Western medicine doctor.
Yes. Time and place for both, I will say, but oh my gosh, if I could shout it from the rooftops, as I'm sure you would, there's so much more to it. And we have to make sure that we are looking at all the things and not just one thing.
Yes. Amen. Awesome. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to hear a word from our sponsors. We're going to come back and we're going to talk practical tips around hormones and gut health. So we'll be right back.
Hey y'all, it's Coach Kayla here. I hope you are loving this episode as much as I am. We will be back in just a minute, but first, a word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by the Hormone P.U.Z.Z.L.E Society, a women's health hub for fertility, hormones, and the business of coaching. Whether you're struggling to get pregnant with pesky hormone symptoms, or you're working to build a career in the fertility and women's health space, we have you covered. Visit our website at www.coachkayla.com to learn more on how we can help you. Text the keyword fertility to 615-257-8855 for your free fertility meal plan.
Hey, Lahana, welcome back.
Hi.
So let's dive into some practical tips for our listeners. First, I want to talk about meal timing. What should our meal timing look like and why is that important?
Yes. So many women are fasting right now. Understandable. There's lots of studies that are showing that it is really beneficial. To a lot of people, but I think again, that individuality really plays a role here. So I love making sure that most women, especially if you're having a cycle, I find that most women do thrive more on, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, regularly timed meal timing, because that's going to really balance that blood sugar, which I find is one of the first hormones to kind of fall off, before sex hormones fall off. So making sure you have balanced meals, eating on a regular basis, and even minimizing snacking a little bit. Cause I know we're also taught 6 meals a day, multiple times a day. But I always like to bring up this little cute guy called the migrating motor complex, the MMC. And what that is like a little broom. So it kind of helps all your foods, like just go down the line. It's a little scrubber. And this turns on 2 hours after you stop eating. And it turns off immediately when you stop eating or when you start eating. So if someone's snacking and eating something all day, then this little guy never is really able to turn on. So I'm a fan for giving your body a break in between meals and making sure that you are eating on a regular basis.
And so what does that look like? Is it bio-individual for everybody, or is it like every 3 to 4 hours, every 5 hours, or what would you say there?
I would say like maybe an 8 or 9 a.m. breakfast, noon lunch, and then like a 5 o'clock dinner. So yeah, I would say maybe 4 or 5 hours in between meals.
Mm-hmm.
But It's bio-individual, because I also see women who are a little bit more menopausal or on that other end, and they really thrive with fasting. It also depends on how's your sleep, how's your stress. Are you in a good place that you could fast? That's definitely possible. So I think it just depends on the person.
For sure.
But I think a lot of women we see, they thrive because they're really stressed out. They have a lot going on. They're balancing a family. They have health issues. And that's where I see like more of the regularly timed meals being beneficial.
And then what about overnight? So you said stop eating around 5 or 6. And then if we eat again around 8, that's about, how long is that? 5 to 5, 15-hour fast. Is that about right?
Yeah, exactly. I think fasting doesn't have to be the excessive 24-hour fast or 18-hour fast. I think if you just simply stop eating after dinner and eat a normal breakfast, you're getting like a 15, 16-hour fast, and that's perfect. And you're sleeping.
I agree. I love to, I cut out snacking overnight probably, I can't even remember, a long time ago, but it has just changed my world. It's just, I can just tell like my food is absorbed better, my gut's better, my skin and sleep, all of it. So I love it.
Yes. I saw such a change in bloating as well. Stopping eating and waking up a lot more, not bloated. When I didn't even snack on this time. Like I sat there eating potato chips, but even just eating something healthy later, it just was a game changer. It felt different in the morning.
For sure. So let's talk about foods for detox. We talked in the first half about how important detox was, but is there specific foods you recommend that help with detox?
We talked about like the prebiotics. I think those naturally help with detox because it's supporting your gut. I think the number one food group that really shines here is cruciferous vegetables, because it does help with that pathway we talked about earlier of the more protective pathway. It's called the 2OH pathway. And so cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, cruciferous, cauliflower, kale, Brussels sprouts, all of those will help shift that pathway and make us choose a more protective pathway. So it shifts us away from the dangerous to the protective. So that's the one that really shines for me in the liver hormone detox arena. And then, all the gut stuff like fermented foods and prebiotics really help support that phase 3 detox.
And this is for men and women, right?
Yeah, again, if you really look at it, it's just eating real wholesome foods. So it's definitely beneficial for men and women.
For sure. I love it. And, and this might be a myth too, but do you agree that we should cook our cruciferous vegetables so we can protect our thyroid?
So I think if you have a thyroid issue, yes, but I also think if you eat a little bit raw, I don't think it's a big deal. I find it's more of a big deal if you're eating like, I don't know, a big bowl of like raw broccoli, which I doubt a lot of people are doing. So I think it's fine to have raw or cooked. I think I prefer cooked in general because you're using that oil to help absorb those fat soluble vitamins that are found in those veggies. I don't think anyone's eating a big bowl of raw broccoli. So I don't think it's that big of a deal.
Okay, good. So a couple bites aren't going to hurt us is what I hear you saying.
Right.
Don't eat a bowl.
Exactly.
Got it. I love it. And what about foods that we should be avoiding for, maybe your top 2 or 3 that are going to be detrimental for our hormones?
So wheat's one. Number 2 would be dairy, I guess, because I do see a lot of women thrive with no dairy, but I'm also not opposed to high quality dairy. And it depends on where your health is at. So I find people have to take it out for a short period of time and then they can bring it in at small doses at really high quality. But since dairy is naturally really high in hormones, I find most people need a break for it. Sugar as well. And I would say this is refined sugar. I think, fruit and all that stuff is fine, depending on where you're at in your journey. But sugar decreases our sex hormone binding globulin, which is a protein that floats in our blood and basically holds onto our sex hormones. And if we don't have enough, it's to help regulate, so we don't have too much or too low in the blood. But when we have low amounts of this, SHGB, in our blood, that means more hormones. So you're going to have more estrogen floating around the blood. And so you're going to have those negative effects. So sugar does that in that case. And then obviously it affects blood sugar as well. Which I said is one of the first players to start going. And then my fourth would be, don't throw your wine bottles at me, but probably would be alcohol. And that's just because it is a burden on the liver. So as we're trying to like promote detox, we can't retox.
Right. Yep.
So it influences digestion. It actually does increase cortisol. So your stress, it kind of affects all things. Now, do I think a glass of wine is going to kill you? Absolutely not. But I think we tend to use it on a very regular basis, like too regular, like every single night or even like 5 times a week. And I think that there are other better options, and assessing of why someone might be using it for more. Is it a crutch? Are you stressed? Like in what ways can we maybe make a better habit? Those probably would be my top 4.
I love it. I know I always tell my clients, you can have a glass of wine here or there. If it's a special occasion or you really want it, you're out to dinner with your husband, but just don't have the whole bottle.
Right. Exactly.
Moderation is key here.
Exactly. And when someone's maybe in like really bad shape, I will say like no alcohol at all. Yeah. But when you get to that point, you like kind of graduate, then you can do that. It's like very occasional, and that's okay.
Yep. And I find too, and I'm sure you feel the same, but I find my clients don't even want it anymore. It's like when they first come to me, if they're a drinker, they're like, I drink wine every night. And then at the end of working with me, they're like, I'm not even wanting it. So it's pretty cool. Yeah.
Agreed. I totally agree. I think that naturally helps limit it. And when you take it out for so long and you bring it back in, I feel like you can really feel like, wow, that made me really bloated, or wow, like I could not sleep good that night. And then that too is like a lesson in itself of like, embed that in your brain next time you want to try it, just so you know.
Yep, exactly. And how about coffee? How do you feel about coffee? How bad for us is it? Or can we have a little bit in moderation?
I don't think that it's bad. I think it's, again, that timing of like where you at in your health journey. I like to give people breaks when they're really stressed out, because it obviously is a stimulant. So it makes us produce more cortisol. So if you're stressed out, big no. But outside of that, it's one of those things like alcohol. I kind of like to give a break, right? Because a lot of people depend on it for energy. Again, you should not have to depend on a stimulant for energy. That should be very natural. And so I like to give people a break there of just, let's reassess that relationship and that dependency and see if we can get that energy up. But there's a lot of studies that show so much promising good stuff about coffee. But I do find it being a trigger for some people with gastritis or GERD. So it's like any other food. It's very individualized of if it's okay or not for you.
Gotcha. Yep. I agree.
Yes.
And how about any foods that we should pay attention to around our cycle? Is there around our menstruation week? Is there any foods that are going to help us when we're on our period?
Definitely iron shines very brightly here. I'm not talking about the spinach iron. I'm talking about a grass-fed steak or deer or beef liver or something like that, because those are the best bioavailable sources of iron. This is a very obvious one of, as we bleed, we just kind of want to replete the stores of iron that we are losing. And marinating that or serving that with citrus fruits like oranges and lemons and limes, because that helps us absorb iron better. I also love those healthy fats, right? Because when we're bleeding, our hormones are on like the low. But in that first follicular phase, we start rising and our estrogen's like the rock star in the first half. So making sure that we have all of those foods that make sure we're producing estrogen, because it is reliant on fats. Love supporting probiotic stuff too. So those fermented foods as well, as we ramp up estrogen, and those cruciferous vegetables as well.
I love it. Awesome. So is there any supplements that you recommend?
I would say they're pretty individualized. So some women who are choosing the more dangerous pathway of detox, like DIM is really great, but I don't recommend everyone taking DIM. I definitely don't recommend it if you don't test your hormones, because DIM can also lower estrogen. So I've seen where people could use it. Maybe their pathways are weird, but they're kind of low estrogen. And so I don't want to lower it more. So that one's very individualized, but I feel like it kind of hit a very popular spark. And so then I started seeing like everyone taking it. I'm like, no.
Right? Yeah, they were going to take it off the market. Did you see that? The FDA was going to take it off the market. And I was like, but so many people need it. It's good. Just overuse it. But I guess the lobbyists fought against that. And so they decided they weren't going to do it. So I was like,
I loved him. Don't get me wrong. But again, you can't just take things like that. There's also chrycine as well. That helps inhibit aromatase, which is an enzyme that can turn your testosterone into estrogen. Again, don't just randomly take it. I think the multi would be great, like just a very good baseline. I feel most people need vitamin D, which is really essential for hormones. I'm trying to think what else. I don't know. I have my everyone should take this. I have that list. It's very, very small. So I can customize that supplement part of it for sure.
Yep. And as always, check with your doctor or practitioner. If you ever add a supplement, don't take it just because you hear about it on this show. Make sure you check with them because we don't know what else you're taking. So we don't want to make any recommendations there.
Exactly.
Cool. So do you have a freebie for us? And then tell us about that. Tell us where people can find you. All the things.
Perfect. Yes, a lot of the stuff we talked about is in this little freebie. So if you need to refer back to something, that's what it's all about, is so you can have this very basic understanding of the importance of nutrition and hormones and some other little tidbits in there. And then you can find me. Instagram is my favorite place if I had to choose one. It's Instagram at Nuvitru Wellness, Nuvitru Wellness, all one word. And you can find us at our website, nuvitrewellness.com. We're on Facebook, but who's on Facebook anymore?
Right.
We're on Facebook though, but I'm not really there, but I'm there. And our podcast is Functional Nutrition Radio, which is always doing this makes me miss interviewing. I used to interview for like the first 2 years. And now it's just solo stuff. So where I'm just kind of going in deep on topics. So that's our podcast.
I love it. So we'll put all that in the show notes. Everybody can check that out. And Lahana, I would love to know any final thoughts, anything you want to leave our audience with, words of advice or encouragement.
I would say stick with can you kill it? Can you grow it for your food? Take it one step at a time, especially if you're new to this stuff. I mean, I started from standard American diet, and just slow, small changes make a big difference. And before you know it, you're going to be like one of the other crunchy moms out there, that are super healthy. So don't be overwhelmed by all the information, that can come at you. So work with a good practitioner and you're good to go.
I love it. Well, thank you so much. It was so fun meeting you, and thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you for listening to the Hormone Puzzle Podcast. Until next time, bye.
Hey, hang on just 1 second before you go. I want to make sure that you are aware of all of the amazing free resources that I have for you on my website at CoachKayla.com. From a fertility meal plan, a cycle syncing quick start guide, a holistic healing cookbook, as well as master classes, blog posts by me and some amazing experts in the fields of fertility, hormones, and nutrition. So many wonderful resources that will help you on your journey. And I wish there had been something like this when I was going through my 2 years of infertility, but there just wasn't. And so that's why I decided to create all of this for you. So make sure that you go and check it out and you take advantage of this plethora of support that I have provided for you. And spoiler alert, these were some of the same tricks and the same foods that I used to get myself pregnant, not once, but twice, even after my doctors said that I couldn't. So I know that these things work. Make sure you take advantage of that. And I cannot wait for you to be my next success story. So thanks, love. See you soon. Thanks for tuning in today to the Hormone Puzzle Podcast. Check out the show notes for today's episode at CoachKayla.com. If you like what you hear, please subscribe and leave a review. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you next week.